Welcome, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Unboxing Old Cookbooks. As you can see, giant pile, and as you can tell by my shirt, I'm doing a marathon of opening episodes today here in the kitchen studio. So this first one is by Royal Mail. Doesn't have a return address, so it's somewhere in the UK. And as always, trying to be careful with the knife because I don't want to damage anything. What have we got? Recipes from Robbie? I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. The Lindsay Federation of Women's Institutes, originally published in 1937. This is a reprint from 1984. And it looks like they have just reprinted it without any narration or changes. There's several different ways that reprints often happen. One way is that someone comes along and says, oh, well, we're going to reprint this old cookbook and we're going to improve it, which often leads to disastrous recipes. The improvements are often horrible. Or they're going to reinterpret it and leave out a bunch of recipes and sort of re-idealize what they think the cookbook should have been, and then try to pass it off as the real one. This looks like it's, I haven't done any research, but it looks like it's just completely redone, right down to the advertising in it. And these are always very interesting because this is 1937 from England, a different experience than 1937 here in Canada. Okay, this one is from closer to home. It is from Toronto. So let's see, what have we got? Okay, I recognize the back of this one. Also has a letter. Thank you very much for sending it and the letter. Now, I recognize this one right off the bat. Metropolitan Life. The Metropolitan Life Insurance Company was very prolific in putting out these cookbooks. A lot of them are from Canada, and they're all from sort of the same time period, late 30s, early 40s. Don't know exactly what the year is on this one. As an insurance company, they took eating very seriously, and they always provided incredibly healthy recipes in these booklets. There were a lot of them. And the recipes are very good, but they're also very healthy. Excellent. Worcester salt. I do not have this one. This is 1931. I have a different cookbook put out by this company, Worcester Salt, and it is a very interesting cookbook. This one is 1931, I think. 1931. Every recipe uses salt. So, just like the other cookbook that I have from this company, the recipes are all over the map because they're not trying to shoehorn their branded product into the recipe. It's salt. It's in every recipe. This one's cornflakes. 1940s probably. Kellogg Company of Canada, London, Ontario. Some of them have check marks. Toasted peaches, lemon crunch, oven crusty chicken. Oven crusty chicken sounds good. What is that product called? I don't even know if it's still available. When I was a kid, Shake and Bake. Shake and Bake. That just sounds like Shake and Bake, and I imagine that that's where Shake and Bake came from. Probably even the same giant brand of companies. Excellent. I really like these. This one added to my collection. I have a whole bunch of them, and they're all a little bit different because they were prolific. But I've never seen these two before, and that's great. I can add them in. Okay, next up, let's try this one. This one is from Peterborough. Again, pretty close down the road from us. Okay, that's funny. This is funny. This is my kind of humor. I like this. If you're not from Canada, you may not understand this But on the show, I often use products that come in a yellow can. Yellow can, black labeling, no name. That's the no name products from one of the grocery stores here. This is the no name medium bag, may contain gifts. Thank you for that. And it does. Look at that. My word. There's a lot in there. Okay. Thank you for the note. Very thank you for the note. First one up, just because I recognize it immediately.
You have 21 notes. Your empty note called Right Magneto and Right Harness.
Somehow I just triggered Siri. Anyway, Mrs. Beeton's Book of Cookery. I have a few of these, and they're often undated. Mrs. Beeton was a that is a story, a tale of insanity. Anyway, this is 1910. Pretty sure Mrs. Beeton has passed at this point. Another company takes up her name and continues using her name and lets on as if she's still alive making these cookbooks. And this went on for years and years and years. And these are solid cookbooks, the Mrs. Beeton books. If you can get one of these, even though, you know, some of the recipes are decidedly dated, they're really good recipes. And you can, you know, some stuff you're not going to make, just because you're probably not going to make it at this point. Bullock's heart, stuffed and baked, probably not something that you're going to do on a Tuesday night. But some of the other recipes are fantastic. Okay, I don't want to get bogged down. This one grabbed my attention right off the bat. Meat and Poultry Cookbook, and it says presented by Star Weekly, and I wonder if that's the Toronto Star? Yes, it is the Toronto Star. So this is 1952, so it's slightly outside of what I normally collect. The For Men Only Sandwich. Cut frank in half lengthwise and crosswise. Place on one slice of bread, spread with mustard, topped with cheese, tomato, onion, bacon, lettuce, more mustard and salad dressing, and remaining bread. Note, the frank is cooked when purchased, so it can be served cold. Something my dad would make. He was not a cook. He ate a lot of hot dogs on white bread. Mom's Cookbook. Oh my. Okay, so this is absolutely amazing to me because it's a slice. The recipe book itself looks like it's a church cookbook. The way that it's typed out and how it's printed, and every recipe has the name of the person who sent it in, but stuffed inside here are copious numbers of handwritten recipes and so many handwritten notes. This is another Davis baking powder. It's got handwritten notes all over it. Amazing. So I don't see a date on this, but the Davis baking powder, I'm going to say this is 1930s. And again, a well-used and cherished cookbook. That is fantastic. Okay. Last one. Again, nothing on the cover. IOOF, Independent Order of Foresters, and Rebecca Home, Barrie, Ontario, 1950. Compiled by members of our fraternal organization. Again, with lots of notes. And this one is fairly close to us. It wouldn't surprise me if I see some names in here that I recognize. Mrs. George Jones. I mean, there could be multiple Mrs. George Jones that lived in this area, but I think I know Mrs. George Jones. And if it's not that Mrs. George Jones, I know another Mrs. George Jones. This is a well-used book. I really like to see that. I know some people look at these and say, oh, they're in terrible shape. And some of them are in terrible shape, but they're in terrible shape because they were used. It's exactly what this book was supposed to happen to it. It was supposed to be used. It was supposed to be splashed on. That meant that you were making the recipes that were in the book. A recipe book doesn't do any good if it's sitting on a shelf unopened. Okay, this is quite a haul. From this, we are going to make something on Sunday morning's Old Cookbook Show. So come on back Sunday morning and we're going to make something out of one of these cookbooks that you see here in front of us. Thanks for sending in all of this stuff. Thank you very much. See you again on Sunday.